Hello Pinnacle Babies, our future CPAs. Today we'll discuss auditing first pre-boards. Just to remind you, ang purpose ng pre-boards natin is for self-assessment. Para ma-assess nyo yung strengths and weaknesses nyo and kung saan topics pa kayo dapat mas mag-focus, okay? Now, huwag nyo masyadong dibdibin kung ano yung magiging grades nyo on our first pre-boards. If pumasa kayo, then that's good. If hindi naman, walang problema yan kasi papasa pa rin kayo in the actual board exam, okay? Sige, para mas maging efficient yung discussion natin, babasahin ko per item yung question, and then I'll go straight to the final answer. And then i-discuss ko kung ano yung major point per item. Okay, ready? Sige, let's go to number 1. The concept of reasonable assurance implies that an auditor, letter A, does not guarantee the accuracy of the financial statement. So, reasonable assurance lang. Hindi siya absolute assurance. Number 2, the 4 major steps in conducting an audit. Yung proper sequence, letter D, 3, 1, 4, 2. So, yung number 3 is planning. Number 1 is TOC. Number 4 is substantive testing, and number 2 is yung auditor's report. Number 3, what is the primary means of dealing with risk in planning decisions related to audit evidence? Yun yung nature, timing, and extent of audit procedures. Well, basically, sa planning, yun yung application of the audit risk model. Okay? Specifically, yung ma-determine natin yung level of detection risk. Number 4, when engaged to compile the FS, an accountant is required to possess a level of knowledge. This requirement most likely would include obtaining a general understanding of, so kapag compilation, yung A, B, and C, hindi natin pinaperform yan in compilation. Ang gagawin lang natin is letter D, understanding the nature of entity's business transactions, the form of its accounting records, and the accounting policies used. Number 5, which of the following procedures regarding notes payable would an accountant most likely perform during a review engagement? Kapag review, inquiry, and analytical procedures. So among the choices, ang consistent lang is letter C, making inquiries of management regarding maturities, interest rate, and collateral. Number 6, if an auditor establishes a relatively high level for materiality, then the auditor will. So kapag mataas yung materiality level natin, mas konti yung transactions na makakapasok sa cut-off natin. Therefore, letter C, accumulate less evidence than if a lower level had been set. Number 7, which of the following statements correctly defines the term reasonable assurance? So reasonable assurance, letter D, high, but not absolute. Okay, number 7, letter D. Number 8, an auditor has identified the controller's review of the bank reconciliation. In connection with this test, an auditor interviews, so interviews, inquiry yan, tama. The controller to understand the specific data. In addition, the auditor verifies that the bank recon is properly prepared. Which of the following types of audit procedures do these actions illustrate? Best answer is letter C, inquiry and inspection of records. Number 8, letter C yan. Number 9, the auditor looks for an indication on duplicate sales invoices to see if the invoices have been verified. So basically, tinitingnan natin kung may proper internal control. This is an example of letter B, a test of control. Number 9, letter B. Number 10, an audit in accordance with PSAs is performed on the premise that management, and where appropriate, those charged with governance, have responsibilities. Which of the following is not one of these responsibilities? A, B, and D, lahat yan ay responsibilities ni management. Yung letter C, okay sana, kaya lang, to comply with all relevant PFRS, hindi PSA. PSA is auditor yan, hindi yan si management. Number 11, which of the following constitutes the most significant risk within the purchasing cycle? Punta ka sa letter C, receiving department personnel signs, receiving documents without inspecting or counting the goods. Okay? Kaya class, nung naalala nyo, sa discussion natin ng transaction cycles, ang internal control natin here is yung blind purchase order. Para pag naka-receive ng goods, yung receiving department forced siya na i-count yung goods. Okay? Letter C, sagot natin dyan. Number 12, which of the following statements correctly describes the objective of an auditor? In audit of FS, it's between B or D lang yan. Pero best answer dito class is letter D, dog for number 12. Letter D, to provide reasonable assurance as to whether the financial statements are fairly stated in all material respects. Ang mali doon sa letter B, wala siyang ginamit na word na material. Okay? Nakalagay lang misstatements. Hindi, dapat material misstatements. Letter D for number 12. 13, an entity's management is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of the FS. Its responsibility includes the following except, so si management, A, B, and C, lahat yan, responsibility si management. Yung letter D, hindi, because yung assessing risk of material misstatement of the FS, responsibility yan ni auditor. So for number 13, is letter D. 14, which of the following procedures is in a practitioner least likely to perform during a review engagement? So pag-review, inquiry, and analytical procedures. So okay yung A, B, and C, yung observing the safeguards over to and use of assets and records, TOC yan. So mali yan, letter D for number 14. Okay? Number 15, the blank sets the scope. Yan yung overall audit strategy, timing and direction of the audit, and guides the development of a more detailed audit plan. Letter A tayo for number 15. Number 16, on the basis of audit evidence gathered and evaluated, an auditor decides to increase the risk of material misstatement. So, tinaas daw class yung risk of material misstatement. Ano ba yung RMM? Yan yung inherent risk and control risk. Tama? So, pag tinaas natin yan, nakalagay, from that original plan to achieve an overall audit risk level that is substantially the same as the planned audit risk level, the auditor would, sagot ko dito is letter A, decrease detection risk. Okay, for number 16. Bakit, sir? Kasi kapag tinaas mo yung inherent and control risk, para ma-achieve mo yung certain same level ng audit risk natin, kailangan ibaba mo yung detection risk. Bakit natin ibaba yung detection risk? Because meron silang inverse relationship. Letter A tayo for number 16. Number 17, users of the FS demand independent audits because, letter B, management may not be objective in reporting. Kasi syempre, si management, ang risk yan is gusto niya mas attractive yung FS as possible. Okay? Pero syempre si users, ang gusto niya mas objective, okay, yung reporting of the financial statements. Number 18, according to PSA 520, analytical procedures, okay, etc. These procedures are used for the following purposes except yung analytical procedures, pwede natin siyang gamitin during planning, substantive testing, and completion. Hindi natin siya piniperform, letter C, as test of control. Okay? Wala kang analytical procedures for test of controls. Number 19, which statement is correct relating to a potential successor's auditor's responsibility for communicating with the predecessor auditors in connection with the prospective new audit client? Punta ka dun sa letter D or dog. The successor auditor should obtain permission from the prospective client to contact the predecessor auditor. Siyempre, before i-contact ni successor si predecessor, kailangan mo na may consent ni client. Number 20, engagement letters are widely used in practice. The primary purpose of engagement letters is to, punta ka sa letter D, provide a written record of the agreement, and syempre para ma-establish yung terms of the engagement. Okay? Letter D tayo for number 20. 21, the risk that the audit will fail to uncover a material misstatement. Ano klase yung risk that the audit will fail to uncover a material misstatement? Di ba, detection risk yan? Pwede ba natin ma-eliminate yung detection risk? Hindi natin ma-eliminate yan. Letter D, under no circumstances. Letter D for number 21. Hanggang acceptable level lang, pero hindi natin ma-eliminate yan. Number 22, after considering internal control, an auditor might decide to, well, kapag nag-consider understanding internal controls tayo, depende yan. Kapag strong yung internal controls, pwede tayo mag-rely sa internal controls. So, TOC muna, and then make konting substantive testing. Pag naman weak yung internal controls, huwag ka na mag-TOC, diretso substantive testing ka na. So, ang consistent dito, class, is letter D, increase the extent of substantive tests in areas where internal control is weak. Letter D tayo for number 22. 23, in obtaining an understanding of internal control, the auditor may trace several transactions. Ang tawag natin dyan yung walkthrough. And the purpose of walkthrough is, letter C, evaluate the design of internal control and determine whether it has been implemented. Letter C for number 23. Number 24, of the following statements about internal controls, which one is least likely to be correct? Alin daw yung mali dito? So yung A, B, and C, tama lahat yung class. Letter D, control procedures reasonably ensure that collusion among employees cannot occur. Hindi natin pwedeng ma-eliminate or ma-avoid completely yung collusion na yan because it is one of the inherent limitations of internal control. Letter D for number 24. Number 25, which of the following statements about internal control is not correct? Alin daw class yung mali dito? A, B, and D, lahat yung tama. Letter C, stronger internal controls result in a decrease dapat yung class. Di ba? Kapag internal controls natin ay strong, TOC muna tayo, tapos konting substantive testing. So dapat decrease in the number of required substantive tests. Letter C. 26, an audit of FS is conducted to determine if, letter C, overall financial statements are stated in accordance with the applicable financial reporting framework. Yung applicable in the Philippines is the PFRS. Number 27, reports on compilation should contain except, alin daw class yung hindi related sa compilation. Letter B, a statement that the accountant does not express an opinion but expresses only limited assurance. Hindi, walang assurance kapag compilation. Letter B for number 27. Number 28, the accounts payable department receives a purchase order form to accomplish all of the following except letter C, okay? Ensuring that the goods had been received by the party requesting the goods. Actually, letter C niyan ay responsibility siya ni receiving department, hindi ni accounts payable department, okay? Letter C for number 20. 29. In connection with the study of internal control, an auditor encounters the following flowcharting symbols. So, ano yung mga symbols na yung class? Yung unang symbol, it's a document. Yung next symbol, manual operation. Letter A, a document has been generated by a manual operation. Number 30, the accounts payable department usually has the responsibility for verifying the propriety of acquisitions by comparing the details on ito yung three-way match: purchase order, receiving report, and vendor's invoice. Letter B for number 30. 31, after obtaining understanding of internal controls, an auditor may assess control risk at maximum. So pag tinaas natin yung control risk, ibig sabihin class, ineffective yung internal controls. So letter C tayo, believes internal control activities are unlikely to be effective. Number 32, which one of this is not a type of evidence that would be used for both obtaining an understanding of the control structure and testing the controls? Yung B, C, and D, lahat yung class ay overlap for both understanding and testing internal controls. Yung letter A, yung re-performance, applicable lang siya sa testing of controls or TOC. Letter A for number 32. 33, in the purchasing disbursement cycle of the order of activities listed, which is the best order? Letter D, ordering goods, receiving vendor's invoice, and cash payments. Number 34, when inherent risk is high, there will be a need to be. So pag mataas daw class yung inherent risk. Okay, pag mataas yung inherent risk, so yung first is a lower assessment of audit risk. Agree ba kayo doon? Mali yan because yung inherent risk directly related sa audit risk yan. Based na sa audit risk formula natin. So dapat mataas yung audit risk yan. Okay? So mali na yung una, no na yan. More evidence accumulated by the auditor, actually, tama yan. Bakit sir? Kasi pag mataas yung inherent risk, ibababa natin yung detection risk because meron silang inverse relationship. Tama ba kapag mababa yung detection risk, mas conservative yung audit natin, therefore yung extent, mas marami tayong evidence na kailangan i-gather. Okay? or mas maraming transactions na kailangan i-test. Therefore, more evidence, yes. No and yes, letter C tayo for number 34. 35, which of the following statements concerning materiality thresholds is incorrect? Yung A, B, and C, tama lahat yan. Letter D, mali. Bakit, sir? In general, the more misstatements the auditor expects. Pag nag-expect tayo ng maraming misstatements, gusto natin, mas marami tayong matest na transactions. The lower should be the aggregate materiality threshold. Letter D tayo for number 35. 36, among the possible reasons when auditor will discontinue servicing an audit client. Letter D, a change in the client management, and the auditor is worried about the reputation or yung integrity of the management. Letter D tayo for number 36. 37, which of the following is an effective internal control measure that encourages receiving department personnel to count and inspect all merchandise received? Ito yung mentioned ko earlier, blind purchase order. Letter A, quantities ordered are excluded from the receiving department copy of the purchase order. Para ma-force yung receiving department na bilangin yung goods na marireceive niya. Number 38, which of the following statements is not true? Alin daw class yung mali dito? Yung A and C, tama yan. Ang mali yung B. Bakit, sir? Control risk is dapat directly related to evidence. Bakit, sir? So kapag yung control risk natin ay mataas, mataas yung control risk, tama ba class, kailangan ibaba natin yung detection risk. Kasi inverse relationship sila. O pagka mababa yung detection risk, mataas yung evidence. So ibig sabihin, pag mataas yung control risk mo, mataas yung evidence. Direct relationship. Letter B, mali yan. Okay? Inverse kasi nakalagay. Number 39, the most effective control for ensuring that customers are billed only for the goods shipped. Best answer dito is letter B, implement a policy that prevents the mailing of sales orders to customers in the absence of properly approved shipping order or bill of lading. Again, yun yung mga shipping documents natin na nagsisignify na ship na or meron tayong sale dun sa mga customers natin. Letter B for number 39. Number 40, the internal auditor recognizes that certain limitations are inherent in an internal control system. Which one of the scenarios is the result of an inherent limitation? Alin daw the class dito yung inherent limitation? Yung A, B, and C, hindi yan inherent limitation. Actually, fraud yan okay? Letter D, inherent limitation. Bakit, sir? A security guard allows one of the warehouse employees to remove company assets from the premises without authorization. Ang tawag natin dyan, collusion. Okay? Nag-collude sila. And collusion is one of the inherent limitations. Letter D. This element of system of quality management or yung SQM natin requires a CPA to establish policies and procedures with reasonable assurance that engagements are performed in accordance with professional standards. Letter C, engagement performance for number 41. 42, the following are examples of error except yung A, B, and C, errors lahat yan. Yung letter D, misrepresentation, fraud yan. Okay, letter D tayo for number 42. 43, in comparing management fraud with employee fraud, the auditor's risk of failing to discover the fraud, well, greater for management fraud because of management's ability to override existing controls. Okay, syempre mas may power yung management kumpara sa employees. Okay, so greater for management fraud. B for number 43. 44, a CPA has been engaged to perform review services. Identify which of the following is a correct statement. Okay, so yung A, the CPA must perform basic audit procedures necessary to determine the statements are in conformity. Letter B, the FS are primary representations of the management. Dapat yan. Letter C, the CPA may prepare the statements from the books, hindi dapat si management yan. Ang tama lang dito, class, ay letter D, the CPA is performing a limited assurance engagement. So, ayan. Kapag review, limited assurance. Kapag audit, yun yung reasonable assurance. Number 45, which of the following best describes the responsibility of the CPA in performing compilation? Compilation, punta ka dun sa letter A, the CPA must understand the client's business and accounting methods, read the financial statements for reasonableness. Yung letter B, C, and D, hindi natin kailangan i-perform yan in compilation. Number 46, which of the following factors most likely would cause an auditor not to accept a new audit engagement? Well, integrity yan, okay? And wala namang integrity sa choices, letter B yung sagot mo dyan. The prospective client is unwilling to make financial records available to the CPA. So kung wala kang financial records, wala kang evidence, okay? So walang sense yung audit natin, wala tayong evidence. Letter B tayo for number 46. 47, which of the following is most likely to occur at the beginning of an initial audit engagement? Yung sa first part ng audit, letter C muna tayo, determine the client's reason for an audit. Yung ibang choices, mali yan. Kasi yung A, prepare a draft of the FS, of the auditor's report. Yung auditor's report, sa dulo pa yan Yung B naman, study evaluates internal control, so TOC. Yung letter D naman, substantive testing. Okay, so pwede mo eliminate using yung stages in audit natin, letter C yung pinakauna dyan. Okay, for number 47, letter C. 48, which of the following is not typically included in initial audit planning? Yung A, C, and D nasa planning yan. Yung B, wala. Sending confirmation letters, substantive testing yan. Wala yan sa planning. Number 48, the following are the benefits claimed for the practice of determining the materiality. Okay? Yung A, under auditing, yung avoiding under auditing, yung B, avoiding over auditing, tama rin yan. Yung letter D, tama rin, effectiveness and efficiency. Mali yung C, being able to decide early what kind of audit opinion. Mali yun. Yung audit opinion, sa dulo pa yan. Okay? Kapag na-perform natin lahat ng procedures natin. Letter C for number 49. 50, which of the following best describes when independent auditor reports on the FS? Punta ka sa letter C, conflict of interest may exist between management and users. Again, si management, Well, ang gusto niya yung more attractive, okay, FS, financial statements. Si users naman, mas gusto niya objective dapat yung FS. So may conflict of interest sila. Number 51, what is the meaning of the principle that requires the auditor to be independent? So yung independence, letter A yan. The auditors must be without bias with respect to the client under audit. Yung B, mali yan kasi yung critical attitude during the audit, professional skepticism naman yan. 52, which of the following statements concerning consulting services or yung consulting is false? Alin daw yung mali dito, class? Letter C, consulting services ordinarily involves internal reporting, hindi external yan. Internal reporting. For management use kasi yan. Okay? Number 53, an auditor should design the audit plan so that, best answer dito is letter C, the audit procedure selected will achieve specific audit objectives. Ano yung mga audit objectives natin? Yung mga financial statement assertions. Letter C tayo for number 53. 54, which of the following is a step in an auditor's decision to assess control risk at below maximum? Tama ba, class? Kapag below maximum, baba yung control risk natin, ibig sabihin, effective yung internal controls. So, pwede tayo mag-rely dun sa internal controls si client. Letter C, identify specific internal controls and procedures that are likely to detect or prevent material misstatements and then perform tayo ng POC. Letter C for number 54. 55, in which of the following order would the auditors perform the following steps? Ang tamang sequence dito is letter B. Set materiality muna tayo. And next is determine audit risk, control risk, syempre huli yung detection risk. Number 56, which of the following is a correct relationship? Yung A, audit risk and detection risk, meron silang direct relationship. Letter B naman, detection risk, control risk and detection risk, inverse relationship dapat. Ang tama yung letter C, detection risk and inherent risk have an inverse relationship. 56, letter C. 57, which of the following statements best describes what is meant by setting control risk at 100%? Pag yung control risk natin is at maximum, internal controls are not effective. Ineffective sila. Letter C for number 57. 58, an audit program is created to specify which of the following. Letter D tayo, audit objectives, basically yung financial statement assertions, and procedures to be followed during the audit process. 58, letter D. 59, the assessment of the risk of material misstatement at the financial statement level is affected by auditor's understanding of the control environment. Weaknesses in the control environment ordinarily will lead the auditor to, so pag mataas yung control risk natin, ito, mababa yung detection risk, okay? Ibig sabihin, more conservative audit. Yung nature, more persuasive. Yung timing, year-end, extent, mas marami tayong transactions na kailangan i-test. So, ang consistent dito, class, ay yung letter B, modify the nature of audit procedures, obtain more persuasive audit evidence. 59, letter B. 60, when accountants are not independent, which of the following reports can be issued? Pwede pa rin mag-issue ng compilation report. Because compilation reports, wala namang assurance yan, non-assurance yan. Hindi kailangan na opinion. So, kahit hindi ka independent, okay lang. Number 61, the auditor's judgment concerning the overall fairness of the presentation of FS. Siyempre, yung PFRS or yung GAAP natin. Generally accepted accounting principles, letter B. Yan yung framework na gagamitin natin. Okay? Number 62, the auditor decided to accept a lower acceptable audit risk in the audit of a client's financial statements. Which of the following is not an appropriate implication? Tama ba, class? Pag mababa yung audit risk natin, okay? Pag mababa yung audit risk, ibababa natin yung detection risk kasi meron siyang direct relationship. Audit risk equal to inherent risk times control risk times detection risk. Okay? Pag baba detection risk, again, conservative yung audit natin. So, alin dito yung mas consistent. Okay? So, for number 62, ang consistent sa atin is less evidence, which of the following is not an appropriate. Ang appropriate yung A, C, and D. Kasi kapag conservative yung audit natin, mas gusto natin, mas maraming evidence. Okay? So, nakalagay sa B, less evidence, mali na yan. Letter B for number 62. 63, a system of internal control, regardless of how carefully designed and implemented, contains certain inherent limitations. Which of the following errors or irregularities is not caused by inherent limitation? So, alin daw, class, dito yung hindi inherent limitation? Letter C, numerous recording errors occurred because persons analyzing and recording transactions did not have the necessary accounting background. Hindi yan inherent limitation, weakness in internal control yan. Okay, letter C for number 63. And then, 64, last one for the theories. A CPA was engaged by a group of royalty recipients to apply agreed-upon procedures to financial data. The report on these agreed-upon procedures should contain those agreed-upon procedures, letter B, list of procedures performed or reference thereto and the CPA's findings. And also, kapag agreed-upon procedures, dapat restricted yung report na yan. Ang makaka-access lang dyan ay yung client. Okay? Hindi pwede ma-access yan ng mga users of the FS. Sige, so let's go to problem solving. So, meron tayong isang given na problem and then 6 questions. So, basically, inventory yung problem natin. Right? Sige, so tingnan natin yung mga question. 65, ending inventory, adjusted balance. 66 is AR, 67 is accounts payable, 68 sales, 69 purchases, and 70 net income. So ito na yung solution natin. I-discuss ko na lang per item. BSA Corporation engaged an independent CPA to perform an audit. So year-end natin, December 31, 2025. The CPA did not observe the count, the financial statements. Ito class yung mga unadjusted balances natin. 72,000 for ending inventory, 60,000 sa AR, sa accounts payable is 30, sales naman class 400, purchases, 160 and 51 net income. Nilista ko lang, kinopy ko lang yung mga unadjusted balances. Okay, so per item, tingnan natin. Letter A, merchandise received on January 2 costing 800 was recorded. So ni-record daw. An invoice on hand show the shipment was made FOB shipping point. Because the merchandise was not on hand, it was not included. Well, tama lang na ni-record kasi shipping point, na-ship na siya December 31. Tama yung recording na purchases accounts payable. Pero dapat included na rin siya sa inventory because na-ship na eh. Kahit hindi pa na-receive, included na yan. So plus mo sa ending inventory, and since meron siyang direct relationship sa net income, plus 800 ka din dyan. Okay? Letter B, merchandise that cost 18,000 was excluded from the inventory. And the related sales was recorded. So debit A or credit sales, ni-record daw. The goods had been segregated in the warehouse. There was no contract of sale. Wala pang sale. Ibig sabihin, hindi pa considered as sold. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, class, i-reverse natin yung AR sales. Bawasan mo yung AR, negative 23, bawasan mo yung sales. And then, nakalagay in-exclude daw, dapat included kasi sa'yo pa rin yun. Okay? Wala pa namang sale. Sa'yo pa rin yan. So, plus 18, meron siyang direct relationship sa net income, plus 18. Siyempre, yung sales, bababa mo rin yung net income. Letter C, merchandise that cost 10,000 was out on consignment for ABC. So, take note tayo si BSA Corporation. Kinonsign natin tayo si consignor. Okay, excluded from the ending inventory. Mali na, dapat in-include mo. So, plus 10 and then plus 10. The merchandise was recorded as a sale when shipped to ABC. Mali. Kasi pag nag-consign ka, magiging sold lang yan kapag nabenta ni consignee to outside customers. So, mali din yung sales. Bawasan natin yung AR sales, which is yung 25,000. Bawasan natin yan. Ibawas mo din yung sa net income. Siyempre, pag binaba mo yung sales, baba mo rin yung net income. Letter D, a sealed packing case containing a product costing 900 was in BSA shipping room. When the physical inventory was taken, it was included in the inventory because it was marked hold for customers' shipping instructions. Investigation revealed that the customer signed a purchase contract dated December 18, but the case was shipped and the customer was billed on January 10. A sale for 1.5 was recorded. So, na-ship siya na January 10. Actually, whether FOB shipping point or destination, hindi mo i-record as sale yan kasi January 10 pa, next year, na-ship. Okay? So, mali na agad na nag-record ka ng sale na 1.5. So, minus 1.5, bawasan mo sa net income yan. Okay? And then, ang ginawa niya, in-include niya sa inventory based on the second sentence. Tama lang. Kasi hindi pa naman considered as sale. So, inventory mo pa rin yan. Letter E, a special item fabricated to order for a customer was finished and in the shipping room on December 30, but was actually shipped. So, shinip noong December 31. The customer was inspected and was satisfied. The customer was billed in full. The item was included, mali na yan. Kasi na-ship mo na, FOB shipping point, dapat in-exclude mo na yan. So, minus 1,000, direct relationship sa net income, minus 1,000 na yan. Next natin, letter F, merchandise costing 15,600 was received on December 28. The goods were excluded and the purchase was not recorded. The auditor located the related papers in the hands of the purchasing. They indicated on consignment from XYZ. So, in this case, tayo naman si consignee. Pag si consignee ka, dapat exclude mo sa inventory, which is tama lang. And then, i-exclude mo rin siya sa purchases. So, actually, his letter F, tama yung ginawa nung client natin. Walang any adjustment for letter F. Okay? Letter G, merchandise that cost 6,000 was excluded and was not recorded. Excluded from inventory, was not recorded as sale. The goods had been specifically segregated. According to the terms of the contract of sale, ownership will not pass until actual delivery. Hindi pa na-deliver eh. So, ibig sabihin, class, dapat included sa ending inventory yan. So, plus 6 kasi meron ng direct relationship. Ngayon, ang ginawa niya, hindi ni-record as sale. Tama lang, kasi sa'yo pa rin naman yung inventory. Letter H, merchandise that cost 15,000 was included in the ending inventory. The related purchase has not been recorded. The goods had been shipped by the vendor FOB destination and the invoice was received on December 30. Yung goods na received on January 5. Dapat, by January 5, dun ka palang mag-i-include sa inventory mo. So, ibig sabihin, class, December 31 pa lang, in-include na sa inventory. Mali yan. So, mag-minus tayo, minus 15,000. Minus 15,000 din sa net income. Ngayon, nakalagay, purchases has not been recorded. Tama lang. Because hindi pa naman sa ating inventory na yan. So, walang problema dyan. Next natin is letter I. Letter I. Merchandise in transit that cost 7,000 was excluded from inventory because it was not on hand. The shipment from the vendor, FOB shipping point, and then shinip siya December 29. So, merchandise in transit na. Sorry, hindi siya. Purchase was recorded pala. December 29. Pero in transit na, ibig sabihin na ship na. Okay? Since na-ship na siya, ibig sabihin sa atin na yun. So, pag plus 7,000 ka dyan, plus 7,000 sa net income. And then, second to last item, letter J, merchandise in transit that cost 13,000 was excluded from inventory because it had not been arrived. Although the invoice had arrived, the related purchase was not recorded. The merchandise shipped FOB shipping point by the vendor. In transit na, ibig sabihin na ship na. Sa atin na yan. So, dapat include natin yung 13,000. Okay? So, plus sa inventory, plus sa net income. And then, hindi pa daw ni-record yung purchases. So, mali yun. Kasi dapat i-record mo na. Sa atin na yan eh. Debit purchases, credit accounts payable. Debit purchases, credit accounts payable. Pag tumaas purchases mo, tataas yung cost of goods sold, bababa yung net income. Actually, net effect nito ay 0 lang. Right? And letter K, merchandise that cost 8,000 was included in the ending inventory because it was on hand. Okay, in-include the merchandise had been rejected because of incorrect specifications and was being held for return. The merchandise was recorded as a purchase. Mali yan kasi incorrect specifications, ibabalik natin kay supplier yan. So dapat included siya sa ending. So -8 and then -8. Ngayon, ni-record as purchase, mali yan. So dapat i-reverse natin yan. Debit accounts payable, debit accounts payable, credit purchases, i-reverse natin. Ngayon, pag nabawasan yung purchases mo, babawasan yung cost of goods sold, tataas yung net income natin, kaya may plus ka dyan. Pero ang net effect niyan is still 0. Okay? Now, if we compute yung adjusted balances for the ending inventory, 102,800, kaya sagot mo sa 65 is letter D, 102,800. AR naman natin class, adjusted balance natin is 10,500, letter A for number 66. For accounts payable, adjusted balance is 35,000, which is letter C. And then next natin is sales, adjusted balance natin class is 350,500, which is letter B. And then we have purchases, adjusted balance, 165,000, letter B. And last one class, net income natin, adjusted balance, 27,300, letter A. Okay, so that's it for auditing first three boards.
Here they can set the price of admission to that giant market as to give away technology. And so when you have both of those things happening, and then you have, say, at Davos at the World Economic Forum, big meetings to coordinate a public-private partnership where the public sector and the private sector merge into a hyphenated single public-private sector. Well, now you have a real problem on your hands when both sides have massive incentives to play according to communist rules. And that doesn't even count the internal infiltration, the internal homegrown communism that is undeniably a major current of the last 50 years of American history under the critical theory guys.
Well, one thing also just pertaining to technology is I know that a lot of looking at our grid and our infrastructure, right? So, Trump put forth an EO, I think it was in 2019 or 20, I think it was 2020 perhaps, that banned basically any, hostile nation or state from having any access to our technology, right, for our grid. And so I think a lot of that was based on in 2019, because I interviewed a guy named John Hollerman, who's on the, he's like the deputy director of a commission specifically looking at on hardening our grid and looking at threats to the grid. In 2018, a commission took one of these massive transformers that are the backbone of our entire grid, and it was from China, and they took a deep look at it and discovered that there was a back door in this transformer where literally the transformer could be turned off from China. So this is our infrastructure, like this is our grid infrastructure. It literally has a back door that Xi Jinping could walk in, press a button, and shut down the grid in America. Like that's how much power we've given them.
Right. Yeah. So it turns out that this was a very savvy maneuver by Deng Xiaoping in the late 70s and through the 80s, what he called his one country, two systems model, which he orchestrated not on his own. He didn't come up with this by himself to allow a kind of fascist production model to rule under or to operate underneath the rule of the CCP, the communist. So the two systems were communist governance and a fascist business environment where private interests could pursue profits with state-owned capital. So that's the way that that's arranged. But he orchestrated that system in conjunction with the